before we begin, a word from our sponsor. Staying In is supported by Castbox, the fastest growing, highest rated podcast app on iOS and Android. Castbox has over 50 million free episodes that more than 13 million users download and listen to wherever, whenever. Castbox has also pioneered a brand new way to search. All you have to do is enter a keyword or phrase, and Castbox will search all show titles and transcripts of every single episode to deliver exactly what you're looking for. So, head on over to your App Store, download Castbox, and try it for yourself today. And now, on with the show.
Dear Esther Live, the Lego Batman movie, and Sunless Skies. This is Staying In. Hey, no, but the question I wanted to ask, gents, is that, and I don't want you to pull any punches with your answer. I want I want it straight from the hip. No beating around the bush.
Okay.
Am I cool?
Oh, no one jumped right in there with
Well,
yes.
that's the answer, isn't it, really? Cause
It's all right, guys. Calm down.
I was giving a lecture today, and I used the expression to describe something that was what I thought was pretty good, and I described it as something that was dope. And the look of derision in my students' eyes and the kind of reaction of utter disgust made me realise at the age of 32 that I'm not down with the kids.
That's all right, the kids are idiots.
As I assumed I was. But am I using the wrong language? Are there any expressions? Like, what Pete, you've got your fingers on the pulse.
Sure.
You know what's hip, what's groovy.
Yes.
What the young folks are talking about.
Yes, what the kids are into.
That's it.
Hashtag content.
Pete, give me some words that I can use for my lexicon.
I always enjoy bringing out the word banging.
Banging.
I will use banging. I get a piece of paper and a pen. I use the word banging sort of ironically, and therefore it's quite cool. I understand that millennials are very into the irony. I found out that we are millennials, by the way. Did you know that?
We are.
If you're 34, I think it's up to the age of 34, 35, something like that. Technically, you're classed as a millennial, which shocks me somewhat. Did you know that the word cool isn't really cool anymore, Chris?
Yeah, is that a bit like the opposite of sick? When something's sick, it's not like ill, like Sam was.
Did you use the word sick?
No, my cousin used the word sick. He's a generation below me.
Right.
So, yeah, no, not sick.
Okay.
So I can tell you, Chris, that using a piece of software, I can see that the use of the term dope is actually plateauing in the English language. It reached its peak in 1941. No, actually, it reached its peak in 1943. That might not be the definition of dope that we're more familiar with now.
No. Probably not.
Weirdly enough, for some reason, I don't know where they get these stats from. In 1841, it had a little bit of a rise, and then it went out of favour, and then just shot up in the 1920s and 40s. But now it's sort of levelling out. We're really not using dope as much as...
Perhaps we should be using it more.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but, dope is just... I mean, what was the context, Chris?
I was talking about a particular group of performance artists, not performance artists, and what they did with the city in terms of trying to remap the city in kind of anarchic and subversive ways.
Right.
Okay. Okay. This is where you went wrong.
Context is everything, Chris.
Weren't they really anarchic and crazy and did things against the book? That was insert typical what I think the kids think is cool and funny here.
I said it was dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what word you could have put literally any word in there. You could have put a word in there that was the absolute most high-end, super cool SXSW kind of crescent freshness. And they would have laughed at you, or you would have immediately made that word uncool by saying something along those lines. Sorry about that, Chris. I think you've picked the wrong opportunity there to talk about. It's basically you've got to pick your battles. That's what I would say.
That's a good point. So actually, so what you're saying, P, is it actually wasn't my fault. I was a victim of circumstance.
No, it was definitely your fault. Don't read into anything other than that.
You said the word.
Yeah,
Right.
you
can you give me an alternative word then? Okay, Peter. Let's rewind.
Okay, yeah, go on.
If you were in that position, what would be the word that you would slot in instead of dope? That is down with the kids. That is 2018.
Yeah. So I would say, if I was saying something very intelligent, which is obviously very rare, but if I was saying something intelligent, then, it would be something along the lines of, I don't know, something like, and that's why Wittgenstein believes that the limits of our world are our language, and that's just good. I would just say good. Because if I chucked in something like super dope freshness, we're talking about something quite high end and highbrow or something like that. It's more about that. It's not. I would just say, and that's why it's jolly good. And they go, wow, yeah, Chris is cool because he's bringing back the old school. That'd be the way I would do it.
Okay, so something retro, a little bit blast from the past. I like that. Samwise, what would be a good alternative that I could use instead of dope? Pete's given me a good selection there.
I think always the positive negative is always a great one.
Mm-hmm.
And swearing. If I was going to create a formula for creating a dope word, I'd make it a positive, negative, and also a swear. So if you're afraid to say,
So Sam, give me a positive word.
So if a positive word would be respect.
Respect. I'm going to go with something negative. Respect.
What's the opposite of negative? What's the opposite of respect?
Disrespect.
Okay, fucking disrespect. There you go.
Yeah,
we're making cool words.
Okay, another one. Can I have one more? Fucking disrespect. Okay.
Yeah, so if you were finishing that sentence you were saying to your kids, I don't know what they are, if you're saying, and that's why Socrates was right to go to death, fucking disrespect. Like...
Cut to title screen on the PowerPoint, rapturous applause.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's do one more. So let's have a positive word. Pete, positive word. Shouldn't be too difficult.
Satiated.
Okay, so what? Hungry, starving.
Yeah.
Okay, so and really, in essence, what Plato is saying is that we're all in the cave, shit starving.
Shit starving's good. I like that. Yeah. Oh, I like shit starving. That's good.
Shit starving. We've had shit starving and fucking disrespect.
Out the corner of my eye, because I've been doing some housework, some DIY. Oh yeah. And
DIY, go on.
Yeah, a little bit of DIY. Well, I got. Do you know that it's not called No More Nails, but it allows you to like
blue tack.
It's a bit better. It's a bit more permanent than blue tack, but it's not permanent. It's like these little labels that you could put on the back of frames, and then they got Velcro on. And then they got another bit with another bit of Velcro, and you stick the other bits onto the walls, and then you stick the frame to the walls, and it doesn't fall down. It's really interesting and really good. I've been doing that, and out the corner of my eye, I've got my next project, which is going to be to hang up. To hang up. It's only a mini project. It's to hang up my signed copy of Journey's Nascence soundtrack.
By August Wintory, is it? No, what's the name? What's the name of the composer?
Augusta Winter was Sean Connery's character in the Avengers.
I think we're the only people talking about that particular character.
I believe it's Austin
Wintory. That's it. Yes.
I got that. I got that through a while back from a little Kickstarter and stuff because I absolutely love. There's something about having a signed piece of soundtrack hung up on the wall, especially for a video game. I think that's really.
Hang on.
Yeah, go on. What's not quite?
Can we backtrack?
Yeah.
Can we rewind? To this shit starving story.
Yeah, it is pretty shit starving.
It's that hanging up. Is it in a frame? What is it?
Yeah, it's in a frame. Yeah,
it's just the CD's nailed through the CD.
That is.
Yeah,
that is not a project.
Is it not?
No, it's a thing that takes 10 minutes, especially if you're using that.
It did not take me 10 minutes.
Especially if you're using that posh Velcro for walls.
Yeah.
A project to hang up... let me give you an idea of how easy it is to hang stuff up, right?
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, go on.
The other day, I hung up a mirror in our house, right? Lisa left the house and said, "Oh, if you've got some time today, would you mind just hanging up that mirror for me?" Fine. Popped to the DIY shop, picked up all the stuff that I used, took me 10 minutes, bish bash bosh, hung it up. Lisa came home and went, "Why have you hung it there?"
Oh, no.
I was like, "Well, that's because where the mirror was, so I
Yeah.
assume that you left it where the mirror was."
Yeah.
Ends up that that's not where Lisa wanted the mirror. I learned a very valuable lesson in sort of communication there.
You know what?
But
Yeah.
I took the mirror off the wall,
Yeah.
I covered and polyfilled the holes, and then painted it so you'd never know which wall that mirror was on. All in all, that job took about a couple of hours.
But you didn't refer to it as a project, Sam.
No, I didn't. I hung something
Yeah.
on the wall,
Yeah.
took it down,
Yeah.
and then pasted over the holes like it never even happened.
Yeah, ooh.
Like, Pete, like the Manhattan Project was a project.
That's true. Okay. Well, look, it's small. It's baby steps for me. That's really what it's about. So I'm going to hang out. So it's nice. It's a nice piece of sheet music, and I think it'll make a nice eye-catching thing. Because like
It's conversation starter, isn't it?
it's a conversation starter. Yeah, I think it's one of those things. Because as I say, like, I do really like music from video game soundtracks, but it's only really specific stuff. I'm not one of those people who's like, oh, I love listening to the Mega Man theme on loop. I'm not into that.
Well, it's funny you should say that, Pete, because I'm in the process of hanging something else up on the wall at the moment, which is video game music related. And that is, I have got a lovely map of the island from the video game Dear Esther by Chinese Room. And because I saw Dear Esther live last week or the week before last at Liverpool Philharmonic, which was a really surreal experience. It's in like a proper kind of concert venue, and they're playing the video game live. Dear Esther is what's being derogatively called a walking simulator, where you essentially, first person, you're walking around this Scottish island and lamenting the loss of this titular character, Esther, and coming to terms with her loss. It's a game about mourning, and it has this astonishing score by Jessica Curry. And Jessica Curry, who, in addition to being the composer, is the studio head at the Chinese Room. For a walking simulator, it's very linear, but it was kind of one of the earliest games at the Chinese Room put together. And it's had this kind of cult following. And it's a really surreal experience. So you're sat in the auditorium, the orchestra comes on, sits down, there's two kind of music stands at the front of the stage and a piano also for the front of the stage. And the singer comes on, sits down, and then the actor comes on, sits down, and then a gentleman comes on and boots up the PlayStation 4, and he's on the front of the stage. But he's dressed, they're all dressed in like black attire, you know, so it's like a proper
Except
kind
for
of
the
like...
gamer who flicks a fag out on the way.
Chris,
can of Red Bull.
Can it please, like, he switches on the PlayStation 4 in the background. You've just got the ding ding ding, the tuning up of the orchestra, and he's there just like poof, bag of Doritos, PlayStation 4 update June. Just ding, Slappy Flap 69 is online. Just like.
So and then he basically just plays the game, and like the way it works, like I went with my partner, she was telling me that like she could see that some of them had little screens in front of them, so they knew when to play the music based on where he was in the game. And they were kind of really following the kind of cues from the pianist at the front, and in terms of when to kind of perform. But the way the game works is that you never really find out who you are, because it's this first person, but there's no kind of sense of, you're disembodied essentially as you're walking around, and you hear this voice, this male voiceover, Dear Esther, this kind of long-winded letter to her as he's lamenting her loss and trying to come to terms with it.
Was that done live too?
Yeah. So what was really quite cool was that they had an actor doing the voiceover live, and this wasn't the same actor from Dear Esther. This is the actor Oliver Dimsdale. And what was quite cool was he played the lead in their later game, Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, Stephen Appleton. And it was really interesting hearing his voice in this world. It felt suddenly like these two games were in a shared universe. And what was really good about that live experience, about having the singer there as the part of the choir, was that suddenly when he was speaking, and he was really properly acting it, like it was embodied, that voiceover experience. It wasn't just the voice, everything was embodied. That suddenly her presence, that space, suddenly she became Esther. And that's not something you usually got when you listen to just the choir in the background of the music when you're playing it. Suddenly you had a kind of a personification of her. And it was just a surreal experience. And looking around the room, the kind of people you got in there were not the kind of people you'd expect to be there. There was a mother there with her kids. And I remember I heard her walking out afterwards going, that was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Clearly she saw like video games and thought, oh, my kids love that, and took him along to it.
Sean and Gary will love that. Take him along.
Yeah. And I saw people I knew from like kind of the art circuit. I'd seen other performances and stuff, and they'd never seen anything like it before, even played games. It was really cool, the interesting kind of conversations we had afterwards. But yeah, a really interesting experience, and it's kind of touring the country. So Gunga Din, yeah. So is it already Queen's Bristol? Did you go and see it?
No, I didn't.
Because Peter was enjoying real art.
Yeah, as we all know, video games will never be true art. Therefore, I have to go and listen to 250-year-old men's work. I didn't go and see it, actually. Not because I didn't think it was a cool idea, just because I don't really have that connection with Dear Esther. Like, I think it was fine and everything, but I came to it after a lot of other walking sims, and it didn't really like grab me in that way. So instead, I went to go and see Vivaldi's Four Seasons and Beethoven's second or fourth.
Well, you did all the research, so
I did. Yeah, I've been listening to. I finished my lecture series now, which is pretty. It was pretty hard going. It was 35 hours of how to listen to concert music. And it was
how to listen to concert music.
You just listen to it.
Yeah. No, that's not actually how that works. But it was more about
that is a completely legitimate thing to do. Listen to it and then enjoy it in your own personal way.
Yeah, absolutely. No, of course it is. Yeah, no, it's exactly the same way that you would enjoy.
I know the perfect way to put it.
Okay,
right,
okay, go on.
So it's like Elon Musk's rocket launching, right?
Okay, I was going to go in a different direction, but let's go with yours. Yeah.
Actually, no. Let's talk about it's Elon Musk's rocket engines landing after launch.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seeing two rockets that have been fired into space.
Yeah.
Landing untouched, ready to be used again simultaneously at the same time.
Yeah.
Perfectly in the places that they were meant to be, is a beautiful thing to behold. That's just like a lovely thing.
Yeah, of course.
Much like just going to a concert and listening to a piece of music. Listening to Elon Musk talk for 30 hours about how he made that possible, and the physics and the engineering and the computer stuff involved can give you a bit more insight into the beauty and the mechanics behind that situation.
Yes, absolutely.
But you don't have to have heard that.
No,
in order to have enjoyed the landing.
No, absolutely. You can go and watch the landing and be like, "Wow, that's really cool." But at the same time, if you have a deeper appreciation of why the thing that has been done is difficult, or how that thing actually got done in the first place, you have a slightly different perspective on that thing. And that was the perspective that I wanted to go into the concert music with, and it was useful because I totally observed things I wouldn't have if I hadn't done that lecture series.
So was a lecture series just about Vivaldi's Four Seasons?
No,
Did you just do it about?
No, it was about ancient music from Greece all the way up to
tell me more.
Just about
from Greece to Hamilton, the history of West End musicals.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was that all the way up to early modernism, so early 20th century, so just about 1920, 1930 covered, but it didn't really cover too much of early 20th century music, because that is bananas, basically, like from the small amounts of music that the lecturer was playing and stuff. But it was really good. And I've realised, I don't know if you got this, Chris, but there's something very different about listening to music where you go and you sit down and you shut up and you sit by yourself and you don't talk with other people, and you are pointed at the stage, deliberately listening and thinking about the music that's being there. It's like a very different kind of experience to listening, rather than like having, I don't know, like classic FM on in the background, for example.
It was particularly the concert I saw, because it's hands-free. You're not playing the video game. It was really bizarre. Suddenly Dear Esther became this film.
Oh, okay.
And that was a surreal experience, that lack of kinesthetic engagement with the actual artistry of it, I suppose. It was an incredible experience, honestly. Like, there were instances where I just had goosebumps, because being in the music hall, the sound can kind of envelop you in a manner that is kind of felt bodily in every aspect, not just through the ears. You kind of just resonates through you. And that sense of aliveness, of being in that shared time and space, is just something that's just utterly bewitching, I find, generally speaking. But what you're talking about, like in terms of lecture series, is the difference between hearing something and listening to something. Because Dan's absolutely right. Like, I don't know the ins and outs of Dear Esther in terms of its origins, in terms of the composition, anything like that. It doesn't mean I can't appreciate it any less. But
of course.
I mean, the listening then becomes a subjective, my own personal responses to what it reminds me of. But listening with an ear to the actual kind of origins of its construction gives you a kind of a particular take on it, let's say, a particular perspective that isn't just your own. But both are viable listening experiences.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But yeah, hopefully she's going to do Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. I kind of...
It'd be a bit more difficult to do that.
It would be massively, because it's not a linear
Chris
game.
Screaming in the audience. go down there! Go down to the gym. There's a
Also,
brilliant bit in the gym. He's walked right past it.
It's like a cast of like a dozen or so all on stage having everyday conversations and basically dying. And so, obviously it's anachronistic as well, but I would love them just to play the music, because I absolutely adore
just
it.
The hits.
The Rapture. You should really, listeners, you should check out the music of Jessica Curry if you haven't. I absolutely adore it. I have it on every week, sometimes daily, the music from it, because I just adore it so much.
Well, I know that's all very highfalutin and high-end and stuff, but Sam, Lego the Batman movie...
Lego the Batman movie.
I don't know, what is it? Which one is this? Is this the one where
there is a "the" in it, but you put it in completely the wrong place?
Lego movie Batman the
Batman movie the Lego.
So is this the one with the Robin that's sort of based on the girl but is actually the boy?
What, the girl from Frank Miller's Dark Knight?
Yeah, totally looks like that Robin.
It does a little bit. I mean, his name's Dick Grayson, so I'm pretty clear of where they're getting their Robin references from.
Yeah, sure.
I've been having the worst luck with movies lately, other than my great cinema scam when we went to go and see Molly's game. I've watched 4 movies in the past sort of month, and they've all been awful, including the Lego Batman movie.
But what about Get Out? You saw Get Out, didn't you, the other day?
I did watch Get Out, actually. I'll strike that from the record. I did, but I think what I'm meaning is like movies that I've picked not knowing that they were going to be good. So obviously Get Out's been much applauded. Jordan Peele is a mastermind, and if you've got access to watch that film, that you should watch it. One of the most interesting things he said about that film is because it was nominated for a Golden Globe in the musical and comedy category.
That's right.
Now, if you've seen Get Out, you'll know that that's wrong. And Jordan Peele was asked how he felt about it being categorised in that way, and he just responded with, well, to me that movie's a documentary, which says a lot about how he feels and how much of himself he poured into that movie about race relations and the perception of Black America. It's incredible. Pete, you would love it. You'd gobble it up.
Okay.
That film. But yeah, so other than that, so films I've kind of just went, oh, this looks interesting, I'll watch that. So it started with Central Intelligence, starring The Rock and Kevin Hart.
I quite like that one.
Yeah, we got 20 minutes through watching that, turned it off.
Yeah.
Then we watched Table 19 with, what's her name? Anna Kendrick and Stephen Merchant. We made it all the way through that, but
I've not seen that one.
It was like late on in the evening, and we thought, well, we either start watching another movie or we just plough on through. And then I watched The Brothers Grimsby, which was the Sacha Baron Cohen, and I have to admit, by the end of it, I was having a little chuckle. It gets to the point. That film gets to the point where it's just like, this is utterly ridiculous, and knowing Sacha Baron Cohen, like a guy, did he get a first at Cambridge or something mental like that?
He's a smart bloke. He comes from a smart family.
That's the thing. That's what I don't understand about it, because he's not that much of an idiot to make a comedy like that on purpose.
Right.
Like I feel like he was like doing too much subversive stuff with it, but there's some really interesting things going on. But yeah, it was still awful.
All right.
And then I thought I was in a safe place with the Lego Batman movie, because we've all been disappointed by Batman in the past, and this film, this film was made because everyone loved Will Arnett in the Lego movie, and they thought, oh, it was great, like, that was a great Batman. I think he even turned up at the Oscars or something like that. So let's make a whole movie with this Batman. And within the first 30 minutes, I had to take a break from this film, because it starts, like Chris, like, sometimes being in your company is exhausting, but this was another level. Like,
it's pretty full on, isn't it?
Batman, right, from the opening like screen of black, like after the imagine if you're going to see in the cinema, after the certification certificate, like Will Arnett starts talking and he does not stop until the end of the credits. Like, that is literally how much this film just like pummels you over the head with this character. Like, he comments and he talks and there's something happening every single second, and it's kind of, the scriptwriter has kind of sat down and gone, right, there has to be a joke every 5 seconds or else, like, we are not doing our job. And it's that pacing and that sort of approach to like the script is just so exhausting. Like, the amount of stuff they shove in. Right, let me just give you an idea. In the first 5 minutes of this film, it introduced the characters Man-Bat, Captain Boomerang, Ed-Head, Crazy Quilt, Eraser, Polka Dot Man, Mime, Tarantula, King Tut, Killer Moth, March Harriet, Zodiac Master, Mutant Leader, Phosphorus Magpie, Calculator, Hugo Strange, Red Hood, Gentleman Ghost, Clock King, Calendar Man, Kite Man, Cat Man, Zebra Man, Condiment King. All just for the joke, so they can say, hey, these might be real DC characters. Think you better Google it. That's what it literally says.
Yeah.
Okay?
Wow.
So then the film introduces, spoiler, King Kong, the Daleks, the Wicked Witch of the West, Agent Smith from The Matrix, Jaws, Voldemort, Velociraptors, specifically from Jurassic Park, and my favourite, the Eye of Sauron.
Yeah. It's like, it shouldn't...
Oh, and the Gremlins.
It shouldn't really be called Lego Batman the movie. It should be, or whatever the fuck it's called. It should be called Lego Dimensions the movie.
Yeah, or if Telltale made a movie with all the licenses they've got.
I know my opinion doesn't count for a lot when it comes to fine films and stuff, because I don't care. But I have also this is one of the few movies I've watched, and you're right, it is absolutely exhausting. It really is. It just it's just on and on and on and on. But I enjoyed it.
And what was a 35-hour lecture series like that complemented that?
That's right. Yeah. But I think it was. I think it was fine. It was fine.
I think you found it enjoying because you only watch one film a year,
yeah,
so it's kind of like
true.
all of the film all of film and pop culture within 90 seconds, within 90 minutes.
I'm actually with Pete. I'm not saying it's a great film. I found it mildly enjoyable.
Yeah, it was alright.
Oh, you've seen it as well, Dan. Am I the only one who's not seen this thing?
I mean, I quite enjoyed it. There were enough funny jokes in it to make it a decent enough comedy for me. I laughed out loud a couple of times.
A comedy shouldn't have to throw 100,000 gags at you just so 10 of them land.
No, that's true. But it is a sort of return to the form of comedy of, like, is it called Hot Shots?
Like Hot Shots, Airplane, the kind of the spoof comedies.
Yeah, but if you actually go back and look at Hot Shots and Airplane and stuff like that, the jokes are real fast. Not quite as fast as that, but they are coming at you thick and fast. But I do totally get what you mean. Like introducing all of those characters is a little bit much, and it is. I think the payoff of that joke is actually pretty funny because you do like flick open your phone and go, no, Condiment King can't be real, and like. I don't know. I think that's quite, and it is quite a touching. Well, not touching. It's quite cool to see that whoever it is that's written it's actually done their homework.
I did. I remember when I saw it, I did think, because depending on kind of where they were going to go in terms of, because having seen the Lego movie, I knew kind of the areas they were going to, and I did get a feeling that a lot of the jokes were jokes based within the DC history that I knew of, but I didn't really get because I don't read all the comics. But I knew enough to know, okay, that's from kind of old comics, and that's why that's there. And I could tell that they, as you say, Pete, they had done their homework. That they knew exactly what they were doing, and they put it in there for kind of hardcore fans. And then on top of that, they throw in all the stuff with Sauron and Voldemort stuff, which actually I quite enjoyed. I quite liked the idea of the supervillain bringing in these great supervillains from all these different areas, because that's what Lego is, and that's what made the Lego movie so good, because I love the Lego movie. And one of the good things about that was the fact that it took into account the fact of, okay, well, Lego is everywhere. Everything has its own Lego set now. So we can use all this stuff. We can have Leonardo da Vinci as Lego, because that's just what happens now.
Is that a real thing? Is Renaissance Lego a thing?
Well, Lego, I'm sure Leonardo da Vinci is in the Lego movie.
They do also have the Lego... I think it's called the Lego Architect series or the Lego Finery series, or like
architecture. I think it's
Is that what it's called? Yeah. So you can get like fancy pants buildings and stuff like that. So Sam, obviously you didn't like it. It just didn't sit right with you. Just wasn't your cup of tea.
I mean, like these films, like I do like the Jim Abrams, David and Jerry Zucker films. Like Top Secret is probably one of the most underrated. Well, not underrated, but it's not been seen by enough people. But even though they do like throw jokes at the screen, there always feels like there's enough thought behind it. And what I mean is, like, it's a way that the film's paced is on purpose. So you know when you're going into it, you know you're going to be hit with 100 jokes an hour. So they play on that. So they keep on priming the script. The script is so brilliantly written, so it's paced. It's almost like an orchestral score. Like they build you up to think that a joke's coming, and then sideswipe you with something else. It's like that scene in Airplane where they go, "Oh, that's when my drinking problem started."
Yeah.
After he talks about that whole harrowing moment, and then he spills his drink. It's just like, bam! You just didn't expect that coming. And like, please don't call me Shirley. Like, how many times can they keep on playing that gag? And then no gag happens for a second. There's that scene where he pulls those sunglasses off his face, and then he's got another pair of sunglasses underneath. Like, it's how they pace them. They're able to bring the jokes in and meter the jokes at a certain point. There's a thing in audio recording called dynamic range, right? And that's the difference between the loudest sound and the quietest sound. So classical music is famous for a massive dynamic range. You go from very, very quiet to very, very loud quite a lot during a piece. And that to me is like a Jim Abrams film, where the jokes in it, even though there's so much coming at you, the screen, they're perfectly positioned, and you know, we're going to go something big here, then I'm going to bring it back down. Whereas Lego Movie has a dynamic range of like Radio 1, like everything is just compressed into this space. It's just there's just no moment in that film where it just goes and the last half an hour of it, I just went off and did something else. I just couldn't carry on watching, like, just being abused. Like, my senses were just abused. Like, there's a thing as well called audio fatigue, which comes from listening to sound that has no dynamic range to it, and we're told about it at work quite a lot, because it just gets to the stage where you just can't make sense of what you're hearing anymore. I mean, that's kind of a extreme way of, you can still hear, but you lose your ability almost to kind of sense the differences between loud and hard sounds, because you've just been listening to like one narrow band of frequencies for so long. Like, it causes fatigue. You feel tired and worn out, and it's like, let me have a rest, Lego the Batman movie, or whatever you call it.
Well, Sam, if you want to break your streak of bad movies, I have a suggestion for you.
Go on.
As you guys are fully aware, I like to think of myself as someone who is fairly, kind of at the peak of popular culture, and a kind of right on top of kind of on the crest of everything that's going to be good, okay? So recently, I discovered certain films that were like animations that were made in Japan. And I know these are kind of very kind of low, not many people watch Japanese animation. I know I'm kind of introducing it to quite a lot of people here. But I watched...
Is that sarcasm?
Yes, that's sarcasm.
All right, okay. So I was going to say, quite a lot of Japanese people watch Japanese animations. So much so that they've got their own genre.
But I watched, a couple of weeks ago, I watched for the first time Spirited Away, which is an excellent film.
Good.
And I got my wife to watch it, and she wasn't sure about it because she just didn't really know any that kind of animation, what it was going to be like. That became kind of like one of her favourite films of all time. And then I wanted to watch something else, and she wasn't too keen about kind of dipping her toe in again. And then the other day she kind of said, just put something on Netflix and we'll just watch something. So I picked a film that's currently on Amazon Video Prime, which is called Your Name. Has anybody seen it?
No, I haven't.
It's called Sam.
It's not called Sam. It's called Your Name.
It's on my wish list. I think wasn't it in Mark Kermode's top 10 films of last year, I think?
It was Mark Kermode's 9th best film of 2016.
It's the most watched... It's meant to be the most watched Japanese anime of all time.
That is still Spirited Away, I think.
Oh, okay. That's... so, yeah, okay. Well, I got a press release about it.
I think it's second. I think it's in, like, 4th or 5th.
It's very, very, very popular.
Yeah, it kind of. I think it broke records in terms of being top of the kind of the box office. It's the only Japanese animation not directed by Miyazaki to hit over 10 billion yen.
Jeez.
So it's a fairly big deal. And I'd heard about it, so I put this on. I prefer to watch kind of these films with dubbings as opposed to subtitling. It's just I find that the dubbing usually is really good, and it doesn't affect my kind of enjoyment at all. So I watched this film, and not really knowing much about it, and I won't give away all that much. The kind of the premise of the film, it's kind of a body swap type of film where a high school girl and a high school boy who lives in the middle of an urban area. I think he lives in the middle of Tokyo, and a high school girl who lives kind of in this small village wake up one morning and they've switched bodies. They don't know each other, they don't know anything about each other, but they realise they've woken up in someone else's body. And then they go to sleep that night, they wake up and they're back themselves. And this happens a number of times. And they begin to learn who this person is, and they start to kind of live each other's lives, and kind of they begin to create some form of communication through leaving notes for each other and stuff like that. And a relationship develops over time. Now, I don't want to go too far into it, because one of the joys I found of the film was just the kind of experience of taking it all in, and the kind of the journey that the story does go on. But Sam, if you're coming off the back of like a rather aggressive animated film, let's call it, in Lego the Batman the movie, or whatever it is, I would highly recommend watching Your Name. It's available on Amazon Prime, so if you're a Prime member, it's available for you there. And it was just absolutely fantastic, and it has stuck with me. It does kind of play on my mind, and I think about the story, I think it through, and it does, and it really resonates in terms of just kind of having a lovely overarching narrative and kind of the journey it takes you on. The journey is kind of a cliched term, but it really, really has stayed with me, and I'd recommend both you, Sam, and kind of anyone who's not currently in a film funk to pick it up.
As somebody who has a passing interest in anime, do you think that's me, by the way, not me specifically saying you, do you think that you will watch more anime?
I am only really going to watch them when they are available through the platforms I have, in terms of Netflix or Amazon Prime. And I will watch them. There is a number of them on Amazon Prime at the moment. The next one I would like to watch is called The Red Turtle, which is it's a different kind of animation, but it's a silent film, came out last year, and I'm really looking forward to watching that. There's certain films like Song of the Sea I'd like to watch, the Tale of Princess Kaguya I'd really like to see, and some of these are available for me to watch, so I will kind of catch up on them. I'm not going to go and search them out, and kind of I'm not necessarily going to buy them stuff, but if they come onto the services that I watch, because I don't watch that many films, really. I watch what I can in the evening times, but often I'm not going to be sitting down to watch an entire movie right now, because I get quite tired these days.
Yeah, of course.
So if there's something on that I can watch, and I can put on a stream that I can, if I don't finish it one night, I can pick it up again, although I don't like doing that, then that's much more appealing to me, rather than having to go out of my way to search something out, which is proving more difficult in a way that I don't know if I'm going to enjoy it. I'm searching something out to get that I might not enjoy, and then I'll feel like, oh, I've just wasted that. Whereas if I'm already paying for a service that offers it, I can watch it kind of no strings attached.
That's really cool, though, because you've now got this whole new medium in front of you that's sort of adjacent to a thing that you already love, which is already loved beforehand, cinema, and now there's like a whole new medium that's kind of opening up to you. I think that's really exciting.
It is, and I'm excited to kind of to try new ones as well, because of the nature of me going through these services, I'm generally only going to see kind of the better ones. Because the bigger...
No. Right, just so... Okay, as somebody who's watched a lot of shit anime, be warned that just because an anime ends up on one of those services, it won't necessarily be brilliant. You'll definitely...
But Pete, you have to understand, I'm not like you. I'm not going to just watch every single piece of anime I could watch, because... I am going to cherry pick them.
I definitely cherry pick, because like Netflix, for example, there's some really good anime on there, and there's just some stuff that you go, oh, that looks interesting, and it won't be. It's real hits and misses.
I couldn't find too much stuff on Netflix I was interested in. There was a kind of a small selection, but there's a few on the Amazon service that have interested me, including Your Name,
Peter?
Which got 2 thumbs up from me.
Good. And if you don't want to watch it drawn by hard-working Japanese folks, you can just watch the American adaptation from J.J. Abrams coming next year.
That'll be good.
Or something.
That'll be fun. Oh, he's a one, isn't he? He is a one.
Lads, I've just been looking online to find the worst Lego sets ever.
Okay. What do you mean by ones that have been
like
bespoke?
The really crap
built?
ones. So I can send you an example. Do you remember that moment in the Return of the Jedi where Luke Skywalker has that face-off with the Emperor? Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah.
Now, do you remember the actual corridor that he walked through on his journey there?
I mean, I don't, but I'm sure you're about to rekindle that memory.
To be fair, I think there's more than one corridor. In Star Wars, I'm fairly confident that there is more than one corridor.
Well, it's all right, because you don't need to think about it, because somebody, Lego, made an official Lego set of it.
No.
Of a corridor?
Of the corridor.
Well, I can't wait for this.
That looks...
It's called Final Duel 2, and it was released in 2002.
Wow.
I mean,
can you imagine getting that?
That just is a grey... A grey...
That's not
what
good.
Is it? It's just like a grey rostro, which it looks like something that someone would get married underneath.
Yeah,
like,
or they've just finished a marathon.
Yeah. Like, it's just a black sort of archway with a stormtrooper. Interesting Star Wars fact. I found out the other day. I was listening to an interview with Mark Hamill, and at the end of Empire, when he finds out that Darth's his father.
Spoilers.
When that was filmed, the line that Darth Vader actually said was that... What's his name?
Obi-Wan
Kenobi.
Obi-Wan killed his father, right? So that was the line. So, like... And so then Mark Hamill acted it and was just like, no, like, it can't be, like, my teacher, my mentor, hand cut off, all that stuff happened. It was always meant to be that line would be overdubbed, but they always wanted to keep it a secret from what was actually happening. So, like, even Mark Hamill didn't know at the time that was what was meant to be.
Oh.
Yeah, that is shit Lego. I mean, you could buy yourself a set for a tenner. Maybe bloody there's lots of these things for sale. There's 25. Oh my god, there's like 75 of them.
Do you? Here's something. Okay, so I don't like to be disparaging about anybody's hobby. I think if you're into a thing, then you're into a thing, and like I find some of the most interesting people are into stuff that I would consider desperately dull. Right? I had an absolutely fascinating conversation with a guy who spotted trains. Like that was his thing, and I talked to him for like 2 hours about it. Like he was absolutely fascinating because of the passion that goes into that thing, and you figure out, oh, this is why this thing is interesting. So when I say this, I don't mean to be mean, but I don't understand adults and Lego.
I do.
Like
I do.
I get why you would buy it and go, oh, this is really cool, and play it with like a kid or something like that. Like if you like got a set and you go, oh, let's make it, Billy, like let's make this really cool little set, and you make it together, and that's great, and you put it up on a shelf. And
yeah, Pete,
like
but the sets that you're making with little Billy is not the sets that you're playing with as an adult.
Oh right, okay. So are they
the
more...
sets you're playing with little Billy is the final Duel II platform with a single Lego man on it.
Right. Little Billy's sad, isn't he?
As an adult, you're building the entire Death Star.
Right. But then once you've built
an
it,
incredibly complex project, which would take probably months to build. It's a project.
I mean, when you say
now that is a project.
That is a project, isn't it? But when you say complex,
they are really complex. I mean, it's not Final Duel 2 complex. I'm looking at Final Duel 2 makes more sense if you look at what Final Duel 1 is. So Final Duel 1, you get the Emperor, you get Darth Vader, and you get the Emperor's throne room. So Final Duel 2 has Luke Skywalker and
is the corridor outside of the main room.
Yeah, so you kind of need both of them. What I love is that on this website that Chris has found, someone's put up their Final Duel 1 for sale, and it's the worst listing I've ever heard. These are the words you don't want to hear when buying Lego online. Final Duel 1, used, incomplete. Oh shit, what does it have in it? Throne of Emperor only. No minifigures, no instructions, no weapons or box. Please see picture. And it's literally just 3 bits of Lego for £3.
All different colours. Yeah, that's crazy. No, but for Pete, to answer your question, it's like my partner for my birthday last year, she bought me a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
And she honestly didn't know how that would sit with me, because I was quite stressed at that time. And so having something like that, honestly, yeah, it sounds really silly. It sounds like really old. But actually, because I know of people that have bought jigsaws for other people, like their parents, and they've gotten quite offended because they felt that, you know, they're being treated like they're elderly now or something, because my nan does jigsaws, she just knocks them out of the park. They're incredible. She's a jigsaw doing
that's
machine.
not the way you do jigsaws. But...
Isn't, is it? But we don't argue with her because she's my nan.
Just sellotapes all the pieces into a ball.
Just makes it one big jigsaw. But I tell you what, there was something incredibly relaxing and, dare I say, almost meditative about doing it.
Oh.
And I think the point Dan was going to make, though, was that when you got to the end, I haven't got it framed on the wall. I just put it back in the box. It's the process that's enjoyable.
It's kind of like one of those adult colouring books.
Yeah, to an extent, yeah. Like, you don't put that on the wall. And, like, it's not like you and your kind of lunchtime minifigure painting. That's painting. That's going to actually have a use when you actually play it in Warband's Bushido at some point.
Well,
but, like,
whenever
for
it does
me,
play that blue game.
Yeah, exactly. That's a hobby
for this.
clever,
It's the actual
grown-ups,
process of doing it.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, but I guess... no, you know what? I hadn't considered that. For me, there is a process in miniature painting, and there's like real artist. I mean, not in my work, it's rubbish, but like in other people's work, there is artistry, right? But like, no, you're right. There is something quite soothing about doing it, and yeah, I suppose if you're not prepared to put in a ridiculous amount of time into doing like painting up 4 little dudes. Yeah, okay, you could make a whole Death Star, couldn't you, in the amount of time that it would take for you to do, 3 Asian peasants.
Yeah, to build the Death Star set would cost you £400, and it has over 4,000 pieces.
That's ridiculous.
So this isn't the stuff you're playing with. You're building with little Billy.
No,
I mean, I'd have to say here that I would rather spend £400 on a Bushido set and all the paints and brushes to paint it, knowing that I could end up actually playing it afterwards, rather than going, hey, I built a Death Star. Great.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. When I went through what I like to call, we all go through it, a kind of a midlife crisis. I was very close to buying the Lego tumbler, and then I realised that it was basically about 1,000 bricks that are all black, and you get quite monotonous after a while.
By that, you don't mean a Lego glass. You mean the tumbler from the Dark Knight series, not like new from Lego cutlery sets, tumblers. Plates.
It's funny, but we all have those kind of hobbies, and there's something quite nice to have like a solo hobby that isn't just reading or consuming something. It's actually a solo hobby where you're making something. That's quite nice.
Yeah. No, I hadn't considered the fact that there is something quite meditative about following instructions or being creative with limited materials, if you know what I mean.
Which is your kind of creativity, let's be honest, Pete.
Yeah, absolutely. Being told what to do is pretty much what I like doing.
But I'm thinking of Dan at the moment, because obviously with his infant son, Dan is trying to squeeze in free time whenever he can. So Dan, have you found any kind of, like, we mooted about the idea of you getting a dartboard.
Yeah.
But have you found any, like, tasks that you can use in those kind of small bursts of being lucid and awake when you're with Toby? Like, how do you occupy your time now? Is your time occupied a lot differently in terms of the stuff you consume?
Yeah, what Dan's been doing has been constructing a giant Death Star with tiny plastic pieces with his infant son.
Yeah.
Here, hold this.
No, to be fair, not really. I've any time I try and play if there's a day when kind of me and him are together just by ourselves, we'll play with his toys. If he's just sitting in his kind of rocker, I might try and play a game. Often he gets annoyed that I'm not giving him attention, so he makes noises and cries, so I have to stop playing my game. All I've been really doing is watching kids TV and CBeebies, and there is some brilliant kids TV that I'm enjoying. It's kind of proper, like, for infants, but there is that kind of little twist of humour which is quite enjoyable to watch.
Go on.
Okay, give us an example, Dan.
One of my favourite shows is a show called Duggee, which is Duggee.
Not to be confused with Doug.
Duggee is a dog who is basically like a scout leader, and he can't speak. He speaks in kind of woofs. And all
that hasn't held him back, though, clearly.
Absolutely not. And all the children in his kind of troop are different, like, animals. So there's an elephant, there's a crocodile, there's a mouse, all these ones. They're all dropped off by their parents, who obviously it's the elephant is dropped off by the elephant, all that stuff, or the mouse is dropped off by the mouse, except for one where the crocodile, I think, drops off a bear, and it's kind of like everyone's included, even kind of people, maybe adopted children are all included as well. It's really kind of interesting seeing those little details that they've put in even at this early stage. And then there's like 5 or 6 of these little animals, and one of them is just an absolute idiot, where they do this thing where they'll go to each individual animal and they have to name a colour or something, and it always gets to the elephant and he just says something completely random because he just doesn't understand, and it's great fun, and I've giggled numerous times at it. So that's how I've been spending my time, just watching television for infants.
And Dan, do you watch it dubbed or with subtitles?
Both, weirdly, both. I want to take in as much information as I can.
Man, Duggee sounds nice. Duggee sounds there must be something quite relaxing about watching TV programs like that, because there's like zero threat, right?
There is, and depending on the show, there's another show called In the Night Garden, which is probably the most famous one. That plays at around about, I think, 6 o'clock. Because like the children's TV channel finishes at 7, because that's when he goes to bed. So at like 6 o'clock this runs, and it's a very kind of gentle, quiet thing, and it's designed to kind of help kids off to sleep. But I remember actually watching it a couple of years back with my nephew, and he was really, really young. And I remember just sitting there watching it with him and realising like 25 minutes had gone past, and I'd just been watching this show, and it just completely hypnotised me. And that's what it just does to kids as well. You just sit there, and it's just the gentle music, and it's similar to kind of stuff like Teletubbies and stuff, where it's all kind of bright colours and kind of simple sound. The kind of the characters make sounds as opposed to they're not having full conversations. And it's, we're going to find this ball. Let's go find the ball. But that's one where you just kind of sit there, and it just does kind of wash over you, and you're like, I'm just quite relaxed now, just watching a bit.
So it's not like Lego Batman the movie, basically.
It's the absolute antithesis of Lego the Batman the movie.
Has Toby got his favourites?
Not yet. He's only 5 months old now, so he watches a lot of them.
He hasn't listened to the lecture series on In the Night Garden to really appreciate
that lecture series is absolutely dope.
he hasn't worked out. He hasn't like listened to like the kind of the inner workings of Iggle Piggle and Macca Packa.
So on Eurogamer today, there was this article about Sunless Skies, which is the follow-up to Sunless Seas, I want to say. I think Sunless Seas came out in 2012, 2013. It was a while ago now. And Sunless Skies is this follow-up. It's in early access, and I got sent a code for it, so I was like, okay, I'll have a look at this. There's this Eurogamer article about it today, and basically they've just laid off a bunch of people because it's not done very well. And I remember seeing Sunless Seas doing ridiculously well and getting like loads of attention and lots of plaudits and loads of people saying, "Oh, this is amazing! This is a new step forward for storytelling in games." And isn't this? It's a great example of an indie game, like a very low, like not very low budget, but a relatively low budget indie game that's able to tell interesting stories and try different storytelling. But yeah, apparently this new Sunless Skies that I've been playing is like. It's not doing as well this time. It's sold like 15% as many units in an equivalent amount of time, and like that's obviously really scary if you're making games, because it's like, what is going on Steam?
Yeah, but it hasn't even come out yet, though.
No, so it's in early access, and therefore the full release is going to be delayed. So basically. I don't know if you guys have ever bought an early access game, but basically it's a game that's kind of in beta, and it's still being developed on, and you go into the early access knowing that, and you think, well, okay, it's going to get better than this, it's going to have more content or something along those lines. So you can pay money for it now, and you can go out there and get it. And I'd not played Sunless Seas, and I actually think Sunless Skies is really good fun. Like, I heard a lot about Sunless Seas, but I didn't really know that much about it. But Skies is about... okay, so it's like there was London on the planet Earth, and then something all went wrong, and then Queen Victoria decided that everyone would go into space, and now Earth is like fractured across different parts of space, and you have to take these like things that look like steam trains across the solar system, and delivering people and goods and stuff like that from one area to another, fighting off space bandits and aliens and finding all sorts of weird things out in space, because it's kind of got a roguelike-ish element whereby you're building this character, which really is your ability to go further into the solar system, up and up and up and up by increasing these stats, which have nice names attached to them, but they basically mean things like the ability to lie, so like cunning, and like the ability to coerce, and things like that in conversations. And then you're also raising the amount of money that you have so that you can buy more supplies, so that you can go further out into the solar system, so that you can do more missions, so that you can do, blah, 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 blah. It's a roguelike in that way. But the thing that's kind of the interesting twist, and I think you'll like this, Chris, especially as somebody who kind of liked 80 Days and that kind of thing, is the way that it handles storytelling is very much menu-driven, so it's text and then menu options. But the storytelling is... every decision that you make has a purpose, has an impact on the game. So, for example, I picked up... I'm really early in the game. I've only been, faffing around with it for a couple of hours. So I picked up these passengers, and they were like, "Oh, I want to go on a big adventure. It's my time now. I want to go and have this fun time." And so you set off to the course as to where you want to go, and you have to figure out where it is, because there's this huge amount of, fog of war, it's usually called. So the map is basically obscured, and you have to figure out where this area that these passengers want to go to is. And on your way there, you get halfway there or something like that, and suddenly the passengers say to you, "Actually, do you know what? I don't want to go on an adventure. I'm actually quite scared. Can I stay with you instead?" And it gives you two options. You can either say, "No, we're taking you to the place," or "Yes, sure, you can join my crew." And so that's a relatively simple decision, but the decisions that you make will all have an impact on how the game moves forward, and will actually change the way that different factions within the world relate to you, and different quests that will become available, and that sort of thing. And it's got ship-to-ship combat, and it's got this really messed up steampunk, futuristic visual style to it, which is just absolutely incredible. It kind of reminds me of a slightly less sort of depressing Dishonored. But it still has that Victoriana, gloom-esque, Victorian London is awful kind of feeling to it. But yeah, I've been mucking about, and it's really strange, because I don't know why it's not it came out today, and I've been mucking about with it. And I've not got a horse in this race. It's just I've been playing it. And I'm like, why aren't people playing this thing? This is great.
And this is a PC game, isn't it, Pete?
Yes,
on Steam.
Yes, it's not got controller support or anything like that, so I don't know whether or not they'll take it to consoles eventually. But yeah, at the moment it's just PC.
But it just, I mean, I don't really want to sound cynical, but you look at what's happened to the studio, and it just strikes me as, is it? I mean, you're the game's producer. Like, is it just bad management that you don't sell as many copies? You don't sell as much as you thought you were going to, and you immediately have to lose staff. And it just seems like, is that gambling with people's livelihood? Surely the studio should be set up so it can take that kind of hit. It can say, right, we're okay. Like, even if this doesn't sell, we'll finish it. We've got the staff to finish it, rather than having to have they grown too quickly because Sunless Sea was so popular? Or
yeah, I don't know what their situation is. I would say this: they've already come out and said, we're going to finish this game. We can finish this game, no problem. It's just so they have. It is on track. You know, as far as I know, it's on track, and they have enough budget to finish the thing with a smaller team. So my understanding is it will all get finished and so forth. I think in terms of how people put teams together and stuff like that. Yeah. I don't know. I would say that it is always really good as whenever you're running a project, you want to be able to add more and more and more features, and obviously you need more and more people to be able to do that. And sometimes a vision can kind of run away from you a little bit. I don't know whether or not that's the case here, but that is kind of the realities of making bigger games. Like, if you make a really big game, like, you know, Sunless Seas, for example, I guess people kind of expect the next thing to be much, much bigger. So
I guess also they could not have foreseen what Steam was going to be like from when they released Sunless Sea to what it is now.
Right, yeah, because Steam is basically like a dustbin of garbage at times. Like, there are 120 games released on Steam every week.
Yeah.
Like, that is a totally different market than when the previous game was released, and obviously that is really sad, and you can't predict anything like that. But
because this is set in the same world as the previous game, it's the same universe. So
it's the same universe, yeah.
So realistically, that should have helped it somewhat.
Yeah, no, definitely, and that's the thing. Like, playing it makes me think, oh, maybe I'll go back and play this other one. And there's a little mobile app that's got like a kind of a choose your own adventure path thing that they've made, and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. Like, it's really cool that they're setting this universe up, basically. Like, and it is a really interesting space. It's very yes, it's Victorian London, but it doesn't make that dumb decision of like not doing inclusion. So it's not all just pale white people. It's people from loads of different walks of life, and it makes it really vivid. It makes this space really it feel really exciting. And the concept itself of this roguelike where you've got to go further out into space and you don't know what's further on down the line, it all just plays into this really exciting feeling when you're in that space. I will say, you know, like, I guess maybe visually it doesn't look that exciting if what you want is like lots of explosions in 3D and like you know, lots of stuff everywhere. Like, this is a top-down 2D, very nice art. Like, I really like the art style, but it doesn't look like a massive step forward. So maybe that's part of it. But again, I think it looks great. The character portraits are really, again, really evocative, and the world feels tangible, especially because of this storytelling. That ties absolutely everything in. You are this mercenary who has to try and build a fortune, and you have to do that by interacting with the world around you and figuring out your place in that world and how you're going to make money in it. And I think that is the core of roguelikes, right? It's about like building yourself up so you can go further. And that is that kind of Victorian spirit of enterprise. So I think that whole thematically and mechanically it all really ties nicely together.
That was Staying In with Dan Frost, Peter Willington, Sam Turner and myself, Chris Darby. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Visit stayingin.podbean.com for more information and links to the comics, movies, games and more covered in this episode. And also, come find us on Twitter, @StayingInPod. If you fancy using Sam's equation to make your own cool words to engage with the youth culture of today,
please let us know what they are. Thanks for listening. Fucking disrespect.